Yeah.
Hi, we are a little late getting
Yeah.
this recording done, and but it's fascinating that we are recording it today. One of the things that is hard to comprehend is that after you've been working inside the creation exercises for a while, and the neural fabric of your brain begins to shift into a place that is not yet cognitively capable. Humanity is not yet cognitively capable of recognizing, even when their neural function is beginning to operate um, in the disciplines or the architecture of the craving exercises and the observing exercises. But in hindsight, I had asked Deb, I'm going into getting a knee replacement February 24th. And when I went to my pre-op on Monday, we were going to have our recording on Tuesday, but I had a dental surgery on Tuesday. But on Monday, when I went to my pre-op, to put it simply, I freaked out. I have no pain in my knee. I can barely drive, but I can drive, only to find out I wasn't going to be able to drive for 6 weeks and that I was bound to have pain. Not a fan. But what was so rigorous about it that I didn't even realize, mostly in my exchanges with Deb, because uh, I closed down so I could be me centric, and I closed off to my work and closed off to the other things I was doing, because what was up in the field was me.
Hmm.
And we when we talk about self care, which Deb will address a little bit better, we talk about self care, something I am not that familiar with because my life since 19 has really been dedicated to being there for others. But even Jesus said, no more self sacrifice. And there's something about the creation templates that actually exists in a unified field of no self sacrifice. So I said to Deb, see if she could do it without me. And then a series of events happened. I was running what we call running the templates. There's 7 of them. I ran the templates to get myself recentered, but not recentered to cope with my survival, but recentered to be with what there was for me to be with in regard to what was before me. I turned 80 this year. It puts me at risk. Any type of surgery puts me at risk in a way that's not risky for people younger than myself. So at any point, I could choose to not do the surgery. But when you're present to what you're present to, and we're going to be discussing the observing exercise today. When you're present to what you're, I always drool when my psychic energy is flowing, sorry. Um, when you're present to what you're present to, then you open up into what you open up into and you have what you have. So I was present to shock. I opened up into fear and terror. And I had before me what there was to have. And in that, what there was to do was to make sure my will's complete, to make sure all the amazing, huge amount of instructions for the first 6 days pre-surgery and post-surgery were clear for everybody taking care of me. But it wasn't locked in like my to-do list. It was locked in my being able to be fully
Yeah.
present. And humanity doesn't realize the value of the richness of life when you're fully present. We think we're not supposed to have sorrow, we're not supposed to have grief, we're not supposed to be angry, we're not supposed to feel hate, we're only supposed to feel joy, we're only supposed to feel happiness. But that's not a human life. We die and we miss each other when we die. We have things happen to us that interrupt our vitality of life. That upsets us. So it isn't about how to be lukewarm or neutral, or that's not life. Life is the ability to move and be present and open up into fully all the facets of life, because then you enter something called a whole system response. And in that whole system response, actually your life gets fuller. I'll tell you one of my stories. My housemate, brand new, she's only been here 1 month. I come in, I have printed out all the incredible 7 pages of everything I have to do pre-surgery, everything that has to be carefully minded from the day 1 to day 6 after surgery. She's sitting there listing every day, listing what is supposed to happen every day, what time I'm supposed to get what stuff. I mean, she's like thorough. And I said to her, "Do you know how beautiful you are?" And then I started singing to her, "How could anyone ever tell you you are anything less than beautiful?" She started crying. But that isn't egoic or identity manipulation. That's the capacity in the midst of fear, in the midst of worry, to still stay fully present in your connection to life. So I don't think it's any accident that then today I said to Deb, let's just do it. Let's just get on the call. Let's just do it. We didn't keep our word. We didn't do it Tuesday. I promised, we broke a promise, and we need to keep that promise. And so next Tuesday we will try to keep this promise, and then the Tuesday after I will be in surgery, so we will not be keeping that promise the Tuesday after. But hopefully we'll do today the observing template. Observing one is our conversation today, and then hopefully next week we can find time to do both craving 2 and observing 2. For those of you that are doing the 7 levels of consciousness, we'll be using those as the operating systems for the conversation that we'll be in during that class. Deb, anything for you before we go on?
I'll have to leave conversation about self-care for another time. It's too big. It's a moving meta point and really important. But for this conversation, no, I think we need to just move forward.
Okay, so Deb's going to start with reading a section out of the book, and then I'm going to read a section out of the book, and then I'm going to read you something about being an observer, and then whatever shows up for us in conversation,
Yeah.
either
right.
from the reading or from the readings or whatever. Go ahead.
Yep. Forming of realities. 2 people strolling down the street may look like they're living in the same reality. They are not. One person is lost in thought, trying to figure out what is going on and what to do. The other person may be thinking about what is going on and what to do, but is not trying to figure it out. The person is being present to their connection to life, both life around them and their life within, looking within and without for what connects them to life and has them exist as whole. The aware person moves as part of the whole, responding more than thinking to what is theirs to do, theirs to be, and theirs to have. The other person is lost between their ears and at best has only brief moments of feeling connected to life. They can only react to the cluttered content of their mind. The interesting part there is they think they're very connected while not connected. We may never know why reality can be so different for human beings during these times. Perhaps we are in a species evolution, as we were before, where one type of humanoid moves forward into a new way of existing, as with the Cro-Magnons, and another type of humanoid goes out of existence. Maybe some of us are beginning to remember, and our connection to life is rising again after having lost that connection through events in our long forgotten past. Maybe others can't remember. Maybe nothing else is happening except we are simply in another moment in time when the human race skirts the edge of destruction and we are learning new ways to exist. Or maybe we will never really know what is happening during these times. The point is, however, that something is indeed happening. And what is happening is affecting the very foundation of what we hold reality to be. Let's stop for a minute and look at outrageous new understandings about reality. First, there is no one reality. Multiple cultures, diverse beliefs, and a quantum number of explanations as to why things are the way they are is evident that there must be more than one form of reality on this planet, more than one way things can be real. As some of us move into an expansion of knowing what is occurring during these times, we will recognize that there are many realities. That reality is as diverse as beliefs, that each reality is like a culture that has ways and means that have it exist, and that how each reality comes into existence is completely different from how another reality comes into existence. Second, reality is not fixed, it is created. Our present day realities seem to be created by two very distinctly different designs. These are realities formed from fear, disconnection, and separation, and realities formed from love, connection, and unity. The reality of fear, disconnection, and separation was already an existing reality before we came here. In other words, we were born into the reality of separation, which collapsed us in a state of limbo and isolation. How many people say, "I don't belong here"? So even though we were born into a reality of separation, we still remember belonging to other realities of connection and love. Not everyone was born into realities of disconnection. Many of the indigenous tribes of our planet still exist in a reality that connects them to all life and keeps them related to the unity of all things. Third, there are both individual realities and collective realities. Each of us came to create our own reality here. Each of us carries an original design of reality that we came here to embody and actualize. As we actualize what is real for us, we find what fits with that realness. Although we can learn to adapt to a reality of disconnection, nothing really fits. Even though we can learn to cope with the reality we were born into, something is always missing. Over the next decade, human beings will actualize their own unique design of reality more and more. When we embody the reality we were designed to exist in, a natural state of connection occurs with others who are actualizing their own unique design of reality, and thus realities of unity begin to exist. Although there is no reality that we cannot interact with, we are not designed to participate in all realities. We cannot necessarily survive every reality. The lamb can lay down with the lion, but probably should move on when the lion gets hungry. Fourth, the construct of our thoughts hold reality in place. To get access to our reality, we must get access to our thoughts. This book is not only an introduction to a language of creation that gives you access to your real thoughts of your original design and the reality within which those thoughts exist, this book is the future reality of unity calling. We cannot stop the shifting of our existence during these times. There is an exodus of people who are leaving the realities of separation and wandering through the wilderness looking for the realities of unity. A body of humanity is on the verge of restoring the wholeness of their original design and birthing the realities that come with those designs. Life is different for me. The reality of separation I was born into, the reality that kept me from what I was actually designed to be, no longer leaks into the unified experience of living that I am in now. I no longer lose myself in realities that are not part of my reality. What I am part of and I operate as are one, and I am constantly maturing as that connection. Because I am part of the reality I exist in, there is no place to put me. I cannot be chopped up, categorized, or labeled. I am the reality I am designed to be, being what is mine to be, doing what is mine to do, and having what is mine to have. It is the grace of this embodiment that gifted me the opportunity to support and participate with others who are emerging out of realities of separation into realities that carry their original connection with life, the original design of their unique reality, formed by the power of creation itself. These are exciting times. We are awakening into what we were each originally designed to be, our natural state of being. We have the ability now to impact what damaged our system of unity, oneness, and wholeness. We can now realize our original design. Let's begin with what happened that had us lose touch with what each of us was originally designed to be.
I think I'm not going to have us read that one today. We'll read it when we do the observing
Okay,
being one.
okay.
There are two things I want to say. One is it's so fascinating to read this year
Mhm.
because I was just listening to a political conversation about someone who's being interviewed for one of the jobs in the government. And it was fascinating. And I know this is reactive, but to listen to his conversation about the value of white supremacy, about for him, the value of living in an all white world, and how he didn't want that, what he considered an all white world, to die. And even though I am dramatically opposed to that conversation
Mhm.
in my own reality, it was so clear that he, like we think when we hear someone talk, Deb, you're going to need to mute. You've got some kind of back feed. Um, when you hear someone, mostly human beings are for or against what they hear, or that person's right or that person's wrong. So we lose a whole body of interaction because we're not listening that for them, that's real. That's not, some people, it's a strategy. And I know that. I know that there are people using the Christian church to forward their agenda. I know there are people using uh, people's trauma and fear of survival to forward an agenda, and that's usury. That's what the prophetics in 2020 5 said: no more usury. But there are people that, for sure, they are those time territories that never lost their hold on this reality we were born into, never lost their hold on this reality, but it was not our original reality. Our original reality was everything was part of everything else. Everything operated on behalf of everything else. Everything was in relationship with everything else, and yet everything had its place. So if you didn't want to be exclusively white, and there are now cities being formed, little compounds being formed that are exclusively white, more power to them. If they are content and that fulfills their story, that's a beautiful thing to me. But if they want to come out and tell me my story, which is not that story, is wrong, they're going to have a problem with me. But not because of their story, but because they are saying that my story isn't real. So there is, even though we separate science and metaphysics, even though we separate politics and metaphysics, this is all coming together now. It's all coming together in the sacred world as well as the secular world. So, Deb, over to you for anything, and then we'll go from there. Unmute, honey. Sorry, we have some kind of back feed we're having to deal with.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah,
I'm
you're
on mute.
fine now. I
Okay,
think it might be my problem, not yours, but we're taking it up.
all right. So first, in response to everything coming together, actually both points, is without the ability to know, to observe your thoughts, observe what there is to be present to, you're stuck in exactly that. Because in this section, uh, let's see if I could find it. Okay, there's an exodus of people who are leaving the realities of separation and wandering through the wilderness looking for the realities of unity. That's part of what I just read in this video. So the realities of unity are not out there as a place to get to, like Shangri-La or what's in the movie The Book of Eli. And it is a place to get to, but from within, discovering your own. So when you're out in the wilderness looking for realities of unity, without the ability to observe and be present to what you're present to comprehend the thought forms guiding and shaping you, you actually don't have an ability to say, let's just keep using that example, an all white world is the best world. There's a point at which it's been instilled in you, and there's a point at which it is actually your unique original design, or the opposite of that, whichever. So this phenomenon of observing is really critical in in discovering your unique and essential reality, and allowing a reality that appears exactly opposite to coexist. And it's the coexistence that's the unity, not sameness, not we all have to be one thing. That's what I, that's it. Thank you, Tatra.
And and then to tag onto that, it's almost impossible to hear this. The neural function is where do I belong? Where do I belong? And not with you. So it's almost impossible. Deb, make a note that in our next conversation, we want to read about languages of separation and languages of unity. But here's the thing, you'll remember this conversation because it's emergent in you. It may not yet be cognitively capable of your processor grasping it, but the experiential living state that you're in, your cellular system, your nervous system are now needing to give everything a place. So when someone says something like, I just can't watch the news anymore, by the way, they're giving it a place.
Mm-hmm.
They're not being right, wrong, or good, bad. They're simply saying what I'm observing is I am present to is I cannot watch the news right now. So it's a totally different model of thought. And it's something that you don't practice. It's something through doing the observings you become. And so it was, and that's why Deb and I can do these conversations and have them right now, because we're now in the active world of what the creation templates we're addressing all the time. Then the last thing I want to say, I'm going to read about the observer that my ChatGPT and I compiled. His name is Charlie, and but it's really important for you to just be present to what you're present to in this call. You can't process this information through what you already know. This is emergent. We're in a consciousness emergent. It doesn't make where we were, which is all about how do we survive. It doesn't make it wrong because we needed to survive. But a lot of people right now, Minnesota's a prime example of it. Just to survive would have kept them in their houses. Just to survive would have him not singing songs of unity on the street. Just to Survive wouldn't have him blowing whistles and dancing and doing ceremony on the streets. So there's a different kind of survival happening, which is the survival of the original nature, the original design of human being. And we get to be part of it right now. And that's why we can take a very unusual product that most people don't even register with, because there is not an attraction to consciousness that is there is an attraction to consciousness where we recognize our neural fiber is the problem. We don't recognize that the life defeating, life depleting, mechanized weaponry that turns you against yourself is not you. It's a mechanism that developed over time through subservience and through suppression of different aspects of the human race. So there you go. And today's Friday the 13th, prime example, because through time, Friday the 13th, the number 13 was magical. It was the great mystery. It's what we knew connected us directly in to the fabric of creation. And it got aberrated. But experientially, a lot of us have escaped from that aberration, but we are not yet cognitively escaped from that separation. Deb, you look like you might want to share before I read.
Friday the 13th in the early 1300s, I don't know the exact date, was the date that the Knights Templar were brutally disbanded, murdered, hunted, tortured. And the Knights Templar represented many extraordinary aspects of human nature. Whatever you feel about the religious wars back then, they gave us many structures of existence like banking that still exist today. And Friday the 13th was a day of aberration because of what happened to them.
And it was masculine. We're always talking about feminine dismantling, but that's one example. I guess we're going to go down that path, observing. But the other path is we never think about that people used to be egregarian. The men and the women lived side by side. They lived in unity with each other. In the European culture, that was completely destroyed when Attila the Hun literally raped and murdered and enslaved women in front of men that could do nothing about it. And the basics, talking Deb's world, but the basic psychological dynamic of a victimizer is that they were once a victim. That is more common than anything else, except for when you're neurologically adapted to being a sociopath. So we're dealing with really deep stuff right here. This isn't a casual, let's do intentions and declarations. Let's get to the heart of the matter, and let's get to what messed with our soul. And let's practice thinking through a system that allows the very fabric of where thoughts come from to regenerate themselves into life-enhancing ways, even in the terror of a surgery, even in the face of not being able to complete my project by the end of this year. I am fully present. Okay, so I want to read this to you all. So we try to stay with our 20-minute spectrum. And so we started at, I don't even know when we started. But anyway, here we go. So the observer is not philosophical. It's I can't do it, civilizational. It determines whether humanity remains fused with inherited separation or regains the capacity to participate consciously with creation. Only what is present organizes reality. This is such a significant thing. And what is present that organizes reality is non-linear. It's not linear. It is not influenced by the past. It is influenced by the moment. When we regain the observer, we regain access to the truth. We're actually living in the moment. And from there, reality can shift. Hold on. I'm getting up. I started at the wrong end of the paper. In observing one, the most important discipline is this: you speak from what you're present to. You speak from what is actually occurring in your field of experience. This is not a technique, it is structural. It is rooted in the architecture of the language of creation, your original design. In chapter 1, you distinguish between the person lost in the clutter of their mind and the person who's been present to their connection to life within and without. One reacts from inherited constructs, the other moves as part of the whole. That distinction is the beginning of the observer. The book makes clear to get access to our reality, you must get access to our thoughts without opinion.
Yes.
Just being present to what there is to be present to. Access requires awareness. It can see thought as construct. Observing one restores that capacity. In other words, what that means is, oh, this is what I'm present to. I'm present to a construct. And the strange thing about when you are fully present, there's a lot of work in being fully present to what there is to be present to. That construct can dismantle. It can dismantle because it's no longer the organizing construct that is invisible to you. When the observer is active, you articulate what is here in the present moment. I feel tight, I sense defensiveness, I want approval, I feel fear, I feel contradiction, I feel relief, I feel joy, etc., and so on. This is enough. When you speak from direct presence, the architecture of reality in the moment becomes visible. The craving beneath reaction shows its pattern. In other words, the craving beneath the reaction shows its pattern. I wish I'd pulled up one of my observings, so it's too late now. But one of them said, observing intense fear this morning has me be present to the most vulnerable parts of myself. Being present to the most vulnerable parts of myself has me open me up into the wonder of how much beauty is present in the midst of all this. Being opened up into how much beauty is present in the midst of all this has me have the next level of awareness that might be forming for me. So that's an example. So that means the craving beneath the reaction. My craving is to not be afraid. My craving is to be one with my future, regardless of what it is. But the reaction shows the pattern. The survival identity appears as structure rather than essence. And I can see the survival part of my identity through what I'm present to. And that visibility reorganization becomes possible. And that's why the observings are also written in the structure of the golden meme, of the golden spiral, because the very way you use them moves you out of where you are into the next greater consciousness of your being. There is a cost when the observer is absent. The book describes how humanity collapsed into a reality of separation and how trauma set in at a secular level. When trauma collapses awareness, the observer disappears. Thought fuses with identity. Reaction becomes truth. Belief replaces directed. Oh, mute again, Deb. Belief replaces direct experience. Without the observer, human beings lose the capacity to tell it like it is for themselves. Instead, they inherit language. They repeat cultural constructs. They argue positions. They defend identities. They speak from what sounds correct rather than from what is present. The result is fragmentation. When the observer is missing, separation-based frameworks hold reality in place. From the book, humanity begins thinking about instead of thinking with. We search for answers in a sea of conflicting narratives. We cannot distinguish between what is actually present and what has been opposed. The cost is immense. We lose direct access to our own experience. We lose direct access to our original design. We lose direct access to relational coherence. We lose direct access to creation itself. Without the observer, we cannot discern the truth we are present to. Everything feels really urgent, really real, equally threatening. Reaction becomes governance. Fear becomes architecture. Coping replaces being alive. The loss of the observer is the loss of sovereignty. Observing one restores that sovereignty. When you speak from what you're present to, you reclaim access. You gain access to the construct of thought. You gain access to the framework generating your reality. You gain access to the point at which new source can emerge. You align with the deeper memory described in the book. Our cells still remember our being systemically whole and connected to a greater energy. Presence reconnects you to that systemic wholeness. The observer is not philosophical, it is civilizational. It determines whether humanity remains fused with inherited separation or regains the capacity to participate consciously with creation. And I started with the end. So anything for you, Deb? So you'll get a link in the Substack post. You'll get a link to the template one and to the observing one that I did. I sent you all this past month. You will get a link to the 7 levels of consciousness. You will get a link to my website, to Deb's website, and you will get a link to how to buy the book. Deb, anything for you? You're muted, honey.
A very simple example of the conditioning is you meet someone on the street. Hi, how are you? I'm fine. And you could be dying inside. Or you could be so ecstatic you could pop, and you do the social conditioning, at least in, westernized America. I'm fine. That's an example of the observer having been taken offline.
It also goes back to the original question about self-care.
Yeah.
When we have self-care as identity survival, we don't have self-care as when I am speaking my truth, myself is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
We good to go, Deb?
We're good to go.
All right. This time I'm going to stop the recording and I will get this posted by the end of the day.